What do you do when you feel overwhelmed by a negative emotion such as shame, regret, anger, or anxiety? Do you have a way of healthily processing these feelings, or do you just let them sweep you away? This short video is about how and why you should learn to use the oh so simple but most powerful tool for emotion regulation, self-distancing. My name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the Betwixt app, and this video is part of a mini-series about the power of expressive writing for personal change, especially when combined with the magic of self-distancing, which is what we're focusing on today. So why do we need a tool for emotion regulation? Well, because we don't tend to do emotions all that well naturally. When we've been struck by a strong negative emotion, in a vain attempt to take control, we tend to ask ourselves various versions of one simple question: why? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening to me? Why are they treating me like that? Why me? We ask why because we want answers. But when it comes to personal problems, why can be remarkably bad at yielding accurate explanations or useful solutions. Instead, it tends to inspire a whole new string of why questions that can lead us down a rabbit hole of anxious introspection. By the way, you can learn more about the problem with why here, if you're interested. So, if our automatic defenses aren't so hot, what can we do instead? In 2016, researchers Kross and Ayduk published their extensive research on the psychological and behavioural benefits of self-distancing. They hypothesised that our frequent failure to reflect adaptively on negative emotions was due to the tendency to explore difficult experiences from a psychologically immersed perspective. That means from the inside out, as if we're inside the experience, living the same story as always, where it's all too easy to get caught up in the negative emotions we have about the challenge. To avoid this, they suggested we would need to learn how to take a step back from our experiences so we could work through them more effectively. This they called self-distancing. Whether we do it in writing, through self-talk, in conversation, or using mental imagery, self-distancing enables us to avoid the temptation to lose ourselves in why, and instead examine the what, where, and how exactly in a more effective and objective way. And in doing this, it teaches us to see ourselves in a similar way to how we might connect with a struggling friend. It's this extra space that enables healing because it encourages self-empathy, the otherwise elusive, compassionate perspective on our own behaviours, decisions, and reactions. People who self-distance when they write about their challenges automatically focus less on recounting distressing experiences and more on reconstruing them in a way that provides insight and closure. You can think of the difference like this. While writing from a self-immersed position is to relive the event and feel everything the same way all over again, to write from a self-distanced position is to create space for objective appraisal. We may imagine that we can view a past event as if we were a fly on the wall, as I asked you to do in the previous video. Or you could use any of the other tools that I'll be sharing in this series, all of which enable us to rewrite the story rather than relive it. But it's cathartic to relive our experiences, I hear you cry, and we need to feel our feelings. Yes, you're right, we do. Self-distancing doesn't stop us from feeling. Frankly, it's not that powerful, which is a good thing. But the idea of cathartically releasing emotions through the act of reliving pain is a little out of date and probably not all that helpful. Discoveries from the world of neuroscience suggest that reliving painful experiences in an immersed way can actually compound negative emotions. That is, make them worse, make them stronger. Rather than bringing about a cathartic release, as was believed in the past, rehashing old pain may stack new layers of negative emotion over the original imprint, making the memory feel worse and its effects more damaging. Self-distancing offers a solution to that problem. And a wealth of studies on the tool show it to improve a whole bunch of behavioural, psychological and physiological symptoms, including, briefly, significant reductions in negative affect such as anxiety, resentment, guilt or shame in the short term after writing, and in the long term, these positive effects appear to increase rather than decrease. In another study, participants who engaged in self-distance reflection after being provoked by a confederate demonstrated fewer retaliative behaviours, suggesting the practice reduced aggressive behaviour. And finally, those adopting a self-distance perspective when addressing traumatic events have been shown to display less cardiovascular reactivity during the process than those who self-immersed, as well as a faster return to their blood pressure baseline afterwards. These studies could suggest that self-distancing facilitates physiological recovery from stress as well as management of difficult emotions in the now. All that said, data on the efficacy of self-distancing for trauma memories is mixed. Other research has shown that PTSD symptoms are associated with an increased tendency to spontaneously adopt a distance perspective when recalling a trauma memory, and that this predicts the development of PTSD. So the jury's out, basically. And if you have trauma that you'd like to process through expressive writing or otherwise, please do so under the guidance of a therapist or doctor. Okay, assuming you feel comfortable to continue, I'd like to share with you a rather magical way to try this out. Close your eyes for just a moment and take a deep breath, because I would like you to imagine that at this very moment, a parallel universe splits off from this one and you can see it. The version of you in this other reality is identical to you in every way. They have all the same memories, thoughts, feelings, and experiences as you, except for one thing. And that's that they don't know about the split. They don't know about this reality and about you. They're just carrying on as usual. So take a moment to imagine this other you going about their day as if you're watching a movie of your parallel life. Imagine your distant self in situations that challenge them in some way, whether they feel anxious or vulnerable, where perhaps they question their ability or their worth. But then also imagine them in situations that bring them alive. Imagine them connecting with things or people that they truly, truly value. Doing the things that excite them the most. And also the things that just happen in a normal day. As you observe this other you, I'd like you to see if you can tap into a feeling of compassion. That wise and kind way of looking at another human being that we all know how to do when we don't feel so involved. Take a moment with that. You can pause the video if you need to. And then when you're ready, I'd like you to consider this final question. If there were one thing you wished you could tell that version of you, one compassionate message that, if you were to convey it, would make the biggest difference to their life, to their self-image or self-esteem, to the way they behave or the routines they keep, whatever it is that you want to help them with. If there were one message, one compassionate message that would make the biggest difference, what would it be? When you have it, write that message down as if you're writing a letter to this other version of yourself, and put it somewhere so you can read it back later. And if you feel comfortable with sharing any of that, I would truly love to hear your messages in the comments or elsewhere, so please feel free to reach out. And as always, I really hope you find this helpful. If you do, please like and share the video so others can find it. And finally, if you'd like to take an epic journey through a magical world in pursuit of emotional wellness, then you can download Betwixt, the mental health game. It's available on the iOS App Store and Google Play.